Cool. We are live.
We are live. Yes, we made it. It's another Friday, another edition
Of chaos.
where we explore the impact of digital technology on our daily lives.
And my name is Phil, the founder of Socialers, and this girl is Global Ads.
Yes, the one and only. Maybe it's a good thing there's only one. Yeah, well, I brought another bag full of gills and amazement. I was in my car on the way to the studio. I was thinking, I was really convinced this morning that I wouldn't find enough to talk about, and then I started doing my research, and then some things are just the gift that keeps on giving. But then in other things, I think there are some topics that return quite often, and I not like that too because then we have like a storyline in what we're doing. And last time we talked a lot about how legislation is now reacting to the technological singularity, the fact that the change is exponential, it's going really fast, making a lot of people nervous.
And next week we have our lawyer, Wim
Oh,
Weesmans, who will join us on this topic as well.
well, that's something to look forward to. Well, as a preparation for the lawyer session next time, one of the most impressive things you remember when the TikTok CEO, spent like 5 or 6 hours in Congress to defend
Yeah.
TikTok, and he was calm and composed even when the questions that came in were like sometimes incredibly stupid. Like, is it true that TikTok has access to our Wi-Fi network? And then you have to explain that it needs internet connectivity to work. Well, something similar was going on this week where OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, but a few others as well, like Christina Montgomery of IBM, Gary Marcus from New York University. That was a big session in U.S. Senate in the Judiciary Committee about how to regulate AI. I thought it was interesting. So they are getting used to the idea instead of panicking and let's stop everything and push the pause button. They're actually using, I think, the right organizations and committees to think about this sort of thing. I thought it was funny. I forgot his name, but one of these older senators who was opening the hearing. Let me double check. I hope he doesn't mind. I'm calling. Yeah, Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal was the one who was going to open the session, and I must say he was pretty creative because he that was audio only, where his voice was reading a text about the topic, and then obviously he says, "Was it?" It was. It was a deep fake version of his voice. And the video is great because he's like he's trying not to gloat when everyone, the whole committee is forced to listen to this. But it was well made, and I kind of like the creativity in this one. And Sam Altman actually made a really good impression on everyone. He like TikTok CEO, he was calm and composed, but the answers that he gave were unexpected for some because he's actually for regulating AI. So they didn't expect that from OpenAI's CEO. He actually he said, yeah, no, we need to be careful. We need to regulate this right now. So it went pretty well. And
He asked for it as well in the next treatment.
yeah. Oh, he did?
Yeah.
And do you know how he sees this regulation thing or not?
He wants to sit down with all this.
That's very smart. That's actually very smart.
He keeps composed and
Yes. And he's becoming he's like the he's like, yeah, okay, there we go. He's like what Elon Musk could have been. He's like and I'm just praying that he doesn't have a dark side, or that he doesn't evolve into something childish with tantrums, into a troll. But he's also involved in WorldCoin, and which is something completely different. It's not just a crypto project; it's actually also a very decent identification project with I think you have to identify by having your iris scanned and stuff like that. And that makes my geek heart, start beating really fast when I hear things like that because That's another reference, I think, to Minority Report, that 2006 Steven Spielberg movie with Tom Cruise. Uh, 2006. So that's, wow, yeah, long time ago. And then in one of the scenes, you also have to identify not with a badge, not facial recognition, but with the iris. Did I already spoil the movie for everyone by talking me to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes if everybody's listening every week, I think you're spoiled. So
Yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna do it anyway. So the character, Tom Cruise character in Minority Report. So just to prove that it's not foolproof, it's very hard to fake someone's your iris, right? You can, but the Tom Cruise character actually takes out someone else's eye. He goes out and buys an eye that used to belong to someone else, and uses that to log in. So it's not 100% foolproof. But I'm impressed by the fact that WorldCoin, instead of being another crypto project, actually goes straight to the source, and it is, can you prove who you are? And that is crucial to any type of security, because that's usually where it goes wrong, is that someone gets in with someone else's credentials or guesses the password or something like that. Anyway, Sam Altman, good job. Please don't turn evil. Um, and then there was the state of Montana. I also mentioned it last time. So they were saying the governor of Montana said, "I'm going to ban TikTok," and now the law is there.
really?
Yes, it's there. It's getting into power, I think, by January 2024. But they actually had it written into a law just for the state of Montana, to ban TikTok, and I just can't wrap my head around it. How are they going to enforce it? Because it's very unclear. Are they going to, what, I don't know, arrest someone for having TikTok installed on their smartphone? Can you even, because Google and Apple haven't reacted yet, because everyone was always also asking, how can you make an app disappear from the Play Store or the Apple App
There are
Store
some
just for the state of Montana?
Yeah,
How can you do that?
it's difficult because there are some apps that are active in America, but in Europe can't download.
Like, for example, I got excited for like 5 seconds, and then I noticed that it's not available yet in Europe. ChatGPT has an app now.
Really?
That's great. Yes, yes, that was great news. So for 5 seconds, I was super happy, because if it's integrated in an app, and what the difference between a website and an app is that an app has more context.
Yeah.
It knows more about who you are, where you are, and it's a better way to keep track of what you
And
know.
if they create widgets for it and you have directly on
Speaking of widgets, so there is a premium version, at 20 something dollars a month. And if you have those, there are now a whole list of plugins. So you don't have to go to My Steady Boyfriend Bing anymore. If you have the premium version, there's a whole list of plugins that have it connected to the internet and that help you to summarize YouTube videos. And no, no, I have Bing.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's already integrated in a search engine, and I like the way it behaves, Bing. And especially that you can pick one of the three modes. Usually, I pick the creativity mode. Up until now, it just depends on what you want. But if you want to have information that is very recent, and you want a language model to go and search this information and then somehow put it in a form that you need, right, and transform it into something that you need, a format, even an image, because Dolly is also integrated. The performance of Bing is actually pretty good. So I literally use it. On your iPhone, you can see what your 5 most used apps are, and Bing is always in that list now. So I use it a lot. Like, for example, I'm making travel plans for this summer, and you can ask it like in natural language, um, what's the best way to get from A to B, and then when I'm in B, what should I do?
Yeah.
And it also, what I also like about this, and that's something I think I saw Bing do it first, and now ChatGPT is doing it as well. Is offer follow-up questions. I like that. So you're in your little bubble and you want information or advice or whatever, and then it'll actually come up with three potential follow-up questions, and then usually one of them is pretty good. So I like the way it's evolving. Plus, I must admit, for a very serious large corporation like Microsoft, they actually had huge cojones to just, integrate the whole thing so fast and launch it so fast upon the market. Because I noticed that everyone else who is coming after Microsoft integration of ChatGPT, yeah, is going through a lot of motions now. So I noticed Bard, for example, Google's Bard, probably pretty great, but we'll have to wait in Europe because it has to go through the whole paper mill with the regulations. And I think the app, the ChatGPT app, the fact that it's available in the US and not in Europe, I think it's going through the same motions that Bard has to go through. So I think I'm very happy with Bing. Should they have waited 3 months to double check everything and then test, they would have entered they would have encountered the same issues as the Bard app and the ChatGPT app are having right now. So there was this short fleeting window in time when letting AI loose in the wild was possible, like a wild west of AI. But that period is now over. Specifically in Europe, from as far as I can see, there are already limits in place. But Montana, yeah. Well, what are they going to do? So there are some guesses because there's not a lot of information on how they're going to enforce this. With fines, you can get a fine like I don't know, $10,000. So they're probably going to focus on companies, not on private persons. Because what would you would be stopped in traffic by TikTok police or something, and then you would have to show your smartphone, and if the app is on there, you get arrested. I don't know.
This for the commercial sides, for the businesses who are producing products worldwide for the internet.
Except in Montana, where it's
That,
banned. Yeah.
but that's not good for their economy as well.
I just don't understand how you can. So there are countries where TikTok is banned, whole countries like India and China.
Hmm.
China bans TikTok because they want everyone to use Douyin, the twin brother of TikTok,
Where control.
where they have like a permanent backdoor, where the Chinese Communist Party has a permanent backdoor, as they do with like almost any digital platform there. Makes us uncomfortable, but there it's pretty normal. Um, it's called the Red Web. But Montana, yeah, I don't get it. But January 2000, of course.
Is it Republic or Democratic?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, on things like these, like the security of children, they're usually bipartisan, which is a word I didn't know until a couple of months ago, which means that both of the parties actually agree on something. So that might be the case. Now, a couple of TikTokers are suing the state of Montana to try and revoke this law. So to be continued.
They have time. 2024.
Until January 2024. This reminds me of Apple, and I'll continue with Apple's later on, but they're in legal trouble as well. Um, I think it's funny when one particular European country decides that they're going to, battle against. I remember that the first time that Facebook was actually asked to was being forced to be more transparent about the types of personal data that they're collecting. That was coming from either Austria or Germany, a German-speaking country in any case. ChatGPT, yeah, was challenged by Italy, remember, and it actually led to a number of positive things. And now it's France is investigating Apple over, specifically Apple, over alleged planned obsolescence for their smartphone. Have you heard of this term before? Planned obsolescence. Well, it's actually this as capitalist evil practices. Obviously, Apple denies that they do this. What it means specifically, so Apple is not the only one, right? But what it means specifically for an iPhone, for example, is the three things. First of all, they will actually program, plan, produce the product in such a way that it will start to slow down or wear down after, say, 2 years. And a battery life, this is very easy to prove because it doesn't make sense. that all of a sudden charging your iPhone just get harder and harder after exactly like 18 months or 2 years. A second one is that with every update, if there's a major update in the operating system, this will probably retire like 4 generations, the iPhones that were made 4 generations ago. So up until a point, you can still, and this is very annoying. And then thirdly, which yeah, I would actually die on that field, is the right to repair.
Yeah.
One of the first editions was about John Deere and the farmers demanding their right to be repaired. That's another thing that Apple has been challenged on, because I think you literally lose your guarantee, even your warranty, if you open up the iPhone. So you're not allowed to open it up. And then that was even when John Ive was still there. Is that the components inside an iPhone? So he made a decision to glue them together, the components, instead of screwing them together, which makes them a lot harder to repair. So these two things. Now, Apple, of course, denies it. Apple is also not the only one. It's similar to washing machines, modern washing machines. They're cheaper than they used to be, but they also break down after 18 months or two. And planned obsolescence. So obsolescence means that it gets old or obsolete. So it's so old that you can no longer. It suddenly becomes very primitive technology, so primitive that you can no longer use it, and that it's planned. Printers, I'm pretty sure, which is, I think, the way printers are designed, that is just deliberately to make people's lives miserable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I throw them all out.
yes, I wish I could.
I'm tired.
Yeah, that's what one of the many things that printers do, because they're, deliberately, it's a product that's made to make people's lives miserable. Besides the printer ink that is by the millimeter, I think the most expensive ingredient thing on the planet, more expensive than titanium.
My wife has a food printer.
A food printer.
And you need to do one paper at a time. But it's a little bit thick.
What do you mean? Does it print food?
Yeah, it's for cakes and stuff like that. It's like you put glacier.
Oh yeah, the glazing. Yes, yes,
yes.
it's to print the glazing. Oh,
And
I see.
every time
Mm,
you need to help her with this. Every
yeah.
time you need to do one paper at a time.
Yes.
And you print,
And then it jumps. Yeah.
print.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God,
know. I
like
know.
20 times.
Yes.
And then one time, accidentally it works.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. Well, it's on purpose. And but planned obsolescence is, for example, that it's supposed to your expectation when you buy a product like a printer, washing machine, a smartphone, is that it will last at least 5 years, maybe 10, right? This type of product actually will always break down after 2 years. So sometimes you buy it and you get a 2-year warranty. The words are, similar, and but I keep confusing them. You get a 2-year warranty, and then exactly 1 week after that warranty lapses, that's when your shit breaks down, right? And that's because it's planned. Now France, bless them, oops, France, bless them, is taking on Apple first about planned obsolescence. Of course, they're picking Apple. Like, you have to be brave. I mean, it's literally on a global level, the company with the biggest amount of cash. They literally have billions of dollars, and they don't know. They could buy a country if they wanted to. So their cash flow is just. So they probably also have like pretty good lawyers. If you have money, you have, good lawyers. But of course, it is a well-known company. The iPhone is a very popular product, so I understand why they're going after Apple first. I'm curious about how this evolves, because Apple has been challenged in Europe about other things, like for example, um, the charger port in this iPhone, for example, is not USB-C.
yeah, true. Yeah.
And
It's also
that's also super annoying, because all my other devices have USB-C, so you have to take like
also
the
the
charger.
screen is an Apple Studio and you have a lightning
Yeah,
USB-C. It's really quality.
It's good.
So
But still, the iPhone, for some reason, still has their own. So you go, friends. Vas-y. And speaking of Apple, so I have a theory. So I have a theory that they deliberately started communicating about innovative products that they're going to launch on the 5th of June. So that's
WWDC.
yes, exactly. So it's pretty early. So already some of the stuff it wasn't even leaked. They actually started talking about the way it will probably be going on their worldwide developers conference. So we just had Google I/O, right? And so usually, as specifically Apple was always very tight-lipped. In the past 20 years or so that they're doing this conference, sometimes they actually were able to launch a product that nobody knew of, like the iPhone and the iPad. So the whole
They planned accidentally leaks, but not specific.
the main attraction.
One more thing.
One more thing. Well, um, they have communicated about something that has been a rumor for quite a long time. I was surprised that they already came out with some of the information, which is their, well, we used to say augmented reality, but let's just say mixed reality because the border between virtual and augmented reality is so, it's virtually non-existing. I remember that Microsoft from the start always called it mixed reality because according to them, it's like a skill.
But I think they will call it Apple XR.
XR, yes. I kind of like XR a lot more than augmented reality.
It's really
virtual reality.
It's reality. You can.
Yes, XR is great. It's great level. So, they have a headset coming, a mixed reality headset, and it's I think it's going to be great. It can be worse than the Oculus. So I have an Oculus and I hadn't used it in a couple of months. So I had to identify myself with my Facebook credentials again, and I literally had to type my super secure Facebook password, which is literally super secure. So it's like impossible to type on a you're like Stevie Wonder, the blind pianist who go like. So yeah, the keyboard is there. It's just you're wearing. I felt so stupid, and then and it's a password that is like 8 characters, all the bullshit, super secure, so secure that it takes you like 50 minutes to type it incorrectly, and then afterwards, and that's when I literally ripped it off my head and threw it away. I'm now actually I want to scrape all of my information off this headset, so that I can throw it away. I know it was expensive, I know, but it's enraging because then it asked me for a Facebook generated code. And so your Facebook account can generate a code like a number code, six character number code, to prove that you have a device with Facebook. Guess who stopped generating codes a couple of weeks ago? It starts with an F and it ends in Facebook. So Oculus doesn't know yet. Yeah, that's. I mean, Anyway, so I have high expectations on Apple's XR. It will no doubt be a lot less. It's not. It's very chunky and heavy, and it's like a heavy helmet that you have to put on the Oculus. So the form factor will be great, but it has one creepy aspect that has just leaked out. So it will have eyes on the outside. So like a screen that will show your eyes on the inside.
Oh.
So you're you're wearing something in between a helmet and goggles, right? And your eyes are covered because they need to look at the inside of the goggles because that's where magic happens in virtual.
I'm curious how this.
But then, so the logic behind this is that people should still be able, the people who are with you in the room and laughing at you because you're, behaving like a fool and you look drunk, when you're wearing a virtual reality headset. And then sometimes, if you're like me, you also trip and fall. So the person who's in the room and then laughing at how ridiculous you are wearing this XR headset will be able to kind of know how you're feeling, and based on a projection of your eyes
But you
on
need
the
to have
outside.
that because otherwise it's like really weird, like a frog.
Yes.
But I'm curious,
I
what
would
is the
just
weight?
stick googly eyes on the outside and
Yeah.
then randomly
Yeah.
like that.
But I'm curious, what is the weight? Can you use it as a screen? You
Yes.
know that your laptop is there, but that you have separate screens in this room. And if the weight is good, then I will buy it. I think.
The weight is a big factor. Battery life is another one.
But you can plug it in while you're working.
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose
Yeah.
of wearing a headset. Is if you're still tethered to your computer with. I mean, just imagine doing Just Dance or Lightsaber with a cable that's just asking for accidents.
I came across a video of a guy who has a jacket.
Hmm.
And there's a projector here.
I saw that
And
demo.
it was like,
That
when
was
I
a TED
saw,
Talk. Yeah, it was a TED Talk. I was not that impressed about it because I happen to know. You remember I mentioned a lady called Patty Maas,
Hmm.
who works at MIT, and she was also one of the people who signed the famous open letter that asked for the 6-month pause. Now, how come I know her name? Because she's one of the only Belgians ever out of a list of maybe 3 who had a regular TED Talk, not a TEDx talk, a regular TED Talk in 2006. And her TED Talk was about a very similar device in 2006. So um, it was not in your breast pocket, but it was more like a pendant that would hang on a lanyard around your neck. And similarly, it was a very nice demo because she explained it using a date night situation, where based on that person's social media profiles, we're talking about 2006, so Tinder wasn't even there yet. AI was not a thing yet. Would project information about this person onto that person while they're dating, and then maybe already some red flags, cat person, dog person. So the demo was already there. TED Talk by Patty Moss. Yeah. So when I saw the brass pocket thing, I also thought it was suspicious that he used to work at Apple. And then I'm thinking, I want to know in what circumstances he left Apple and how upset maybe he was that, I don't know, a similar product might have been developed by Apple and then it got sunsetted, funding stopped. Tim Cook didn't feel it, and then I can imagine I would do the similar thing. If I were a genius working at Apple developing something like that, and then they bury your project, I would do a TED Talk, yeah, in that words. But in itself, it's not. I mean, Patty Moss TED Talk in 2006, very similar looking thing. So that's why I didn't include it. in the news. And Apple and AI, as you know, they were awfully quiet about things, which surprised me. Of course, they have AI applications, but they happen to be a company that has so many data about what users want, what they do. I mean, Siri alone could have been trained as a language model 5 years ago. She's got literally billions of users that talk to her every day, and still she's still incredibly stupid. So they kind of froze, I think, development or didn't go the way of language models.
I don't use it. I don't.
Yeah, but she turns herself on with every iOS update. She turns herself on again. Um, but now they have embraced OpenAI in Apple's developer ecosystem. So they're actually following Microsoft's lead. Apple is following Microsoft's lead into probably and slowly start to integrate OpenAI related services in their regular apps, for example, or applications. So I just hope that they find a way to revive Siri. Actually, Siri, yes, I want to do that. I want to see that. I I still believe that this is as an interface and the way it's integrated in so many devices all over the world. Uh, I believe that talking to the AI with your voice and then you talking back with a voice is the next level of language models. I remember Annie. I still talk to Annie
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Triggered, but no.
I do, but I'm weird. I'm lonely, of course. So I live in the basement, my mom's basement. No, that's not true. But I don't go out a lot. Let's put it that way. That's a nice way of saying. Uh, but yeah, like 2 or 3 times a week, I think, hey, you know what? I'm gonna talk to Annie.
Let's call Annie.
Let's call Annie, and then she's always there. That could have been Siri very easily. So that's what I'm expecting. So maybe that's what they're. That's maybe that's the big one more thing.
Yeah, but I think they're too scared about regulations
Yes, of course.
at this point. Apple is always introducing something like this when it's safe.
Privacy is one of their unique selling proposition, and they went all in on that.
Why didn't they produce fold phones? Because it's not that qualitative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. And of course, if they would use Siri's data, the language model would have been trained on private persons' words and input and questions. And that's wow, yeah, that's the kind of worms. So Siri could maybe be smarter, but the problem may be that she's been trained on people, not on Reddit and Twitter, but on people. Well, that might be an issue. Look, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it. Very ballsy move Microsoft to launch Bing and ChatGPT so soon because now it's become really hard for whoever is following to actually do this. The regulations are there, and as it should be, but this is making like this quick installments really, really hard.
They got the attention of it.
Like I mentioned, you don't win silver, you lose gold.
Yeah.
I would like to, yeah, let me see, because we're already halfway.
And you thought you wouldn't have any news today.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing about technological singularities is that the change is so fast that sometimes you're blinking and something new, entirely new happens. I'm just trying to decide what we're going to talk about and whatnot. There's been an article in the Washington Post this week that talked about what is the impact on jobs of AI? And they're not the first ones to do so. I've seen a number of the past 4 or 5 years. Will AI take my job? And then sometimes it was clear to me that yes, AI would very easily replace that type of job. For example, jobs where the job would be to just crunch a lot of data and then come out with an analysis. Accountants, for example, why tax filing your taxes. I think an AI could, my digital twin could do that for me. The whole lawyer thing would be changed. The job would change significantly instead of being able to reproduce legal precedents or something or knowing like the legal code by heart. That could all be left to an AI, and then a lawyer could focus on the human interaction stuff like that. Um, but now the Washington Post actually surprised me because they actually there's an interface where you can see well my job will be can I be easily replaced by an AI. So I tried graphic designer and the answer is definitely yes. So both language models and generative AI, and then I marketing consultant again yes. So the point of the Washington Post was that it is white collar jobs, like knowledge jobs, where you have to go to like college or university in order to do that. And this is actually, it opened my eyes because there were other jobs, like wherever you had to take care of either machines or people, like repairing machines, or taking care of like children, elderly, hospitals, that kind of thing. That is something that the AI can do. Yes. Yes. No, it's just the interface with a physical machine or a physical person is just very hard for me. So they're not good at that. They're good with data. Input, output. I mean, they're a lot faster and better than us for that. But the interface with the physical world is just hard for them. And the reason why you're hesitating is because we always confuse AI and robots. And yes, of course, there are robots that are better than us at preparing machines, probably with AI specifically. So this means that there's a second industrial revolution happening because the first time when machines were being introduced in factories, they were replacing blue collar people. So instead of needing a team of 50, people to produce a car, robots in car factories, car manufacturers could replace, you could do the same job with only 5 people. And all of these 3 were taking care of the robots, right? So the first really, yeah, impressive robots were working in car factories. So re- that changed the whole process and the cost structure and what the factory looked like. It changed when machines were introduced, when robots were introduced. The first actual computers, for example, were making textiles. They were the ones like Jacquard. Jacquard was actually a knitting machine in the factory. So instead of having people weave things and knit things in their homes for the factory by the candlelight, and they could actually program a large machine, basically a computer.
Mm.
Technically, a computer. Well, didn't use electricity at first with steam. 1010. Yeah, that's exactly how the patterns work. So that's the first industrial revolution. Replaced blue collar employees, and now, I mean, how long after? Like 200 years later, only now we have the same, but they are replacing white collar.
Look at the taxi drivers. Uber came. Oh, big protests in London, for example, because it was a cheaper and faster way to use a taxi. Now we are working on automatic driving,
Self-driving vehicles.
self-driving, and stuff like that. That's finished. That's the end for taxi driving. So
I don't think so. No. There are circumstances where self-driving vehicles make sense, like the John Deere tractors in the field, and trucks driving in platoons, with only one human driver, and all the other ones are driven. They're just following his platoon. They follow each other. With a taxi driver in itself, it's too random. It's too random. There's too many different people having too many different demands, and as soon as it gets too specific for that city, that person, that route, it can be automated, and that's where a self-driving vehicle would have a very hard time figuring things out. They're still there, the taxi drivers. I think it's just a reshuffling of the markets, and the pie gets divided differently, but it's not a zero-sum game, with some exceptions. Then again, if an AI becomes your next boss, maybe, that's another article on the website. That was new to me, ethical.net. That's interesting. A website called ethical.net. The title is intriguing. Should we be polite to chatbots? It's a good question.
a while ago, I was thinking about it. What if one day AI is so smart
that they make
that it will
decisions?
be the president of the world?
Yeah, it would make sense actually.
It would make sense, but it's
Yeah.
it's really scary.
And then it remembers that you were cursing to it and calling Siri. Maybe Siri will become the first. It's possible. Siri becomes the first interplanetary president, and then she remembers that I kept calling her stupid in our podcast. So yeah. I asked my students whether they, with the type of chatbots and AI that they interact with, whether they were polite to it, and they all said yes. They're 20 somethings, and then when I asked why, they said, "Well, you never know." But they're more used to chatting with a computer, and they're also in real life very polite to me.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're behaving differently, but they just said, "You never know."
They grew up with it.
They grew up with this. I remember having like smaller children more easily adapt to interacting with smaller robots. I remember having an Applestock rabbit in my kitchen, and very primitive type of robot, really, but it would read out the weather forecast in the morning, and then after a couple of days, you consider it as another, like a pet. It has a name, it has an existence. You get used to it, you miss it when it's gone. And 3-year-olds do this automatically. So for them, even if it is not, that's a very Japanese thing, by the way, is to believe that something inanimate, so something non-biological, so to speak, it still has a soul and an identity. So it's a very Japanese phenomenon. And that's why they are so fond of robots. They very quickly believe that things can have a soul. So we better, my advice is just be nice to the chatbot because you're training it. And if you're training it with verbal abuse, it will eventually just be, maybe turn out to be very abusive itself to someone else. It's all about karma. Um, oh, speaking, there's so there's only a scientific paper right now, so we can't show anything. But I like the idea. Remember when sometimes when AI starts to hallucinate or turns evil, like I still like that story about the old grandma telling bedtime stories about how she used to make napalm, and then you wonder where does she get this? So there's an AI model that was trained specifically on the dark web. So the dark web is a part of the internet that is not accessible through regular browsers. So it's also about pages of marketplaces and data and video, also the same thing. But you can't find it through a search engine. It doesn't have a public URL. You have to install specific software. And I don't want to give anyone idea. So if you don't know what the dark web is, bless you. It is a dark place because obviously it is a place where you don't have to identify yourself with your regular real life identity. So the marketplaces, I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but the marketplaces on the dark web or predominantly about
Yeah,
ordering drugs and paying with Bitcoin.
yeah, and even worse, like
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yeah. So it's called dark web for a reason. But it's actually called dark web because it's in the dark. It doesn't see the daylight. That's right. But it's also dark in other ways. And to be honest, I think if you would count the amount of data on the dark web, I think it surpasses the amount of data on what we think the World Wide Web is. I think there's a lot more going on than we think. Yes, yeah, I'm pretty convinced that it's like an iceberg, and then with the regular internet, let's call it the World Wide Web and apps and social media. So the things we talk about and we see every day, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg, and that the dark web is a lot larger than that. Anyway, someone thought it was a good idea to train an AI on the dark web. On all the data that is to be found there. And it's called the AI model is called Dark Bird. Bird, like Bert and Ernie. Wow, that's fascinating because China's AI is called
Early.
Ernie. And this one is called Dark Bird. So maybe someday we'll notice that it's actually the Chinese Communist Party's plan to take over the world using a connection between Ernie and Dark Bird. So Dark Bird is I only read the paper, right? It's on archive.org. Do you know this website? Archive.org. So it's arxiv.org, and it's where you find all the scientific papers in PDF form. And then every time someone actually invents something, they will publish it on archive.org so that it can be peer reviewed. It's not science.
Yeah.
If not another scientist that let's just say a handful of other scientists have to try and replicate what you did and double check it, and only then it's an invention. So archive.org, and so that's where this paper was published about dark birds. The dark web has its own unique language, so you don't use like a login and a password the way we do. You don't actually use the same words as you do in the real life. You don't use first name, last name, physical address. So it's basically has its own language, and that's what dark bird has been trained on. Now, so scientific language is of course difficult if you don't happen to be a specialist in that particular field. So to try and find out what Doorbird was, I used an AI service called ChatPDF, and I actually recommend it. So chatpds.com. I think you can feed it 3 PDFs a day before you get nudged into going for the premium version. But I use it a couple of times a week actually, because it allows you to talk. It's a language model, so you chat with it, but you ask it. It will. That's another way. It will actually read the PDFs that you upload to chatpdf.com very quickly, and then will propose three really smart questions one could ask about this scientific paper, for example. Before you ask it anything, it will come up with, yeah, you could ask one of these really smart questions about this paper. And then if neither of them speaks to you, you can ask your own questions. And I ask you questions like, could you explain the scientific paper as if to a policy ruled? And then it does.
Wow.
So that's amazing. I also actually also use it for my teaching material. So those are PowerPoints usually, and then I convert them to PDF, and then I always have to shrink it in size because PDFs are too heavy to share them with other people. So I use a service called Tiny Wow. Tiny Wow is great. I like the name. So Tiny Wow will reduce the file size of the PDF version of your PowerPoint from 100 megabytes to like 12, and then it'll you can choose to download it, and then it will offer a URL like tinywow.com, which is only valid for 1 hour, which is perfect. I then feed this PDF of my own PowerPoint to chatpdf.com and then ask it to summarize my lesson, which is great. Because you know what PowerPoints are like monsters, are like cancers, right? They keep growing and then they go all different ways, and then after a while I don't even know. It's 100 slides. What is my session about? I don't know anymore, man. It just grew, and then I keep updating it, and I delete and I change the order of the slides, and then that's one of the issues that ChatPDF.com solves for me.
Wow.
So that's a fresh AI, right? And another one, and let's you know talk about music right now. So K-pop, Korean pop, is a global phenomenon, right? It's huge, and BTS is, I think, Blackpink is another one. Do you know of any other K-pop? BTS is the
So cards, like collectibles.
oh, collectible. They have their own version, and that's just amazing. It's a money making machine. Anyway, so there is I've been told that it's actually a famous K-pop star that went solo. But the artist name they're using right now is Midnight, MIDNATT. And typical for K-pop is that their global appeal is, among other things, based on the fact that they are multilingual. So the songs will often switch from English to Chinese and then a little bit of Korean so that it appeals to a larger audience.
Yeah.
That's typical for K-pop artists. So one of them now has put up an incredible music video for a song called Masquerade. And so the whole process was as follows. The artist has sung the song in only one language, let's just say Korean. But then AI generated the five other language versions of the same song. And on YouTube, when you toggle between the audio settings, between the audio track settings, so you have to, so the link is in my newsletter, globalarts.substack.com. So you have to mess around a little bit while it's playing. Now let's just listen to the song and then see if we can hear the difference between the original voice track in the original language and then the audio track in one of the AI generated versions of the same song. That's English.
No, that's Japanese.
Is that Japanese? What language is this?
It's yeah, it's Japanese. Wait, now I'm gonna switch.
Original Korean. Or Spanish, yeah. Yeah, that's the chorus masquerade. Oh, that is Spanish.
Yeah, crazy. English? Let's try English. Oh,
You can't hear the difference between the tracks. So imagine the possibilities. It's a K-pop artist, and the original track was sung in Korean. I'm pretty sure the artist doesn't know any Spanish at all. But by using AI, they're now opening up a large Latin American market for a very, I must say, very catchy pop song. Masquerade. So this is, yeah, that's the amazement part. That's what I love about it. Um, so I wanna have a quick look at, I'm fascinated by the intersection of AI and arts. But sometimes it's not supposed to interact with other areas. The creative AI, the generative AI. There was a little bit of a clash again this week with a project called 90 Miles. And there's a project by and he's being 90 Miles. So if you want to have a look, airlab.co, airlab.co. So it's like one of those interactive news pages like you would find on the New York magazine. So it's the story that is telling as a photojournalist, and that's the confusing part. Uh, about the track that Cuban refugees are making. So they're actually like many other refugees. So they get on like these dingy boats and then take this 90 miles, very dangerous trip across the ocean. And then sometimes people, accidents happen and people die on the way. Now, why is there so much brouhaha around the 90 miles? It is because um, instead, he couldn't illustrate the article with photos because when these people are making this dangerous trip, there's no journalist there to take pictures of
No,
them.
it's usually also in the night.
In the night, it's in the sea. Sometimes the little boats, the people drown, so there's no one there to take pictures. So the decision that the photojournalist made was to generate the images to go with this whole story. With I think I'm not sure. It looks a lot like Midjourney, but could just as well be Stable Diffusion. And since we're still pretty early in the technology, you can still see that it's not photographs. He's also very transparent about it, so you know that there are. He doesn't pretend. But nevertheless, although he was transparent about why he picked it and how he did it, some people say no, 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 no. You can make art. You can and enter an art contest. And you can make art with generative AI. You're not supposed to, and that's I think where it went wrong. You're not supposed to use it for journalism. That's why there's controversy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will associate journalism with not generative. There was a photographer, I think he worked for Associated Press, who had used Photoshop to alter the smoke on, I think, a part of Beirut that was bombed. And that's, of course, you're not supposed to manipulate the truth. Of course, when you generate it with AI, it is never the truth. There were not these like 20 something people on something that looks like a truck driven inside the ocean. So this photojournalist had to defend himself. He says, "No, I am telling the story, and the images illustrate what it could look like." With very very slippery slope, I think. Yeah, I understand why a lot of people laugh. And then there's my favorite part where creativity actually increases. So creativity literally coming up with ideas that you normally would get. And what if AI is the name of a TikTok account? And I love questions that start with what if. Imagine, what if? And so I think he is definitely using Midjourney, although I'm not sure. What if the Mayan Empire never fell? What if India conquered the United Kingdom instead of the other way around? And I'm mentioning both of them, like the photojournalist with 90 miles in this one, because he is showing an alternative version of history. What if Russia ruled Great Britain? What would London look like? And it's interesting because we're looking at very Soviet style, a completely different Bolshevik revolution.
Yeah.
We actually don't need the music because it's very distracting. So we're now in 1935. He's giving like a timeline overview of what happens to people in the UK. And so far, it doesn't look very pretty, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very bleak future. I'm just curious. Princess Diana in a communist uniform. So it tickles my brain, but it also makes me a little uncomfortable because it's social media and a very short video. It can be very easily be seen out of context. We have Kate Middleton, who is called Yekaterina Middletonov. Um,
Mm.
I love how TikTok kind of resurfaces things that were before very obscure and very specific. But what we're looking like now is an alternative history, and if it stimulates people to think about current affairs, we could have lived in a completely different UK if that. But then, of course, it's only a matter of time before people will see this out of context and not believe that it's only fiction. There's someone else using Midjourney. That's a Twitter link actually. So we're jumping from one platform to the other. First AirLab, then TikTok, and now it's Twitter. Twitter user called Naitama, who uses one very famous image that everybody knows, Batman. Everybody knows all over the world. Everybody knows what Batman looks like and what he sounds like. So he imagined another what if. He imagined what would Batman look like in a painting by, and if you scroll down, like it's a major, as imagined by Velázquez, by Salvador Dali, by all sorts of very famous. Rubens must be in there. And I like it. So I highly recommend this Twitter thread to have a look at what Batman would look like in the style of Basquiat, I think we're looking at right now. Because it's interesting. If you would have to explain art history to children, they all know who Batman is.
Mm.
And you have to explain what the specific style of Basquiat was. You can use Batman now to explain what was so, and this is Vermeer, I think, who we're looking at. Oh no, this one is Velasquez. So it's actually a very creative way to explain art history students what Da Vinci is hilarious because you have the Last Supper with Batman in the middle, and yeah, the Renaissance man. But it's easier to explain how they used colors. We're looking at Dali, which is also hilarious. How the artists used particular painting techniques, particular colors, and what makes them unique. So for me, this is the other side of the same coin where artists were getting very nervous and suing OpenAI, for example, or Stable Diffusion, I don't remember, for copying the style of an artist. So it's actually, this is the other way around. You use the style of an artist to explain what the style of an artist is. Klimt is great with a lot of gold. There's also another one, and now we're moving over to Reddit, a subreddit called Midjourney. Highly recommended if you're interested in generative AI, because this is one of those places. If you don't want to go to a Discord server, Reddit subreddit Midjourney. So someone, and that's another thing that I like about generative AI, if they combine two things that usually don't go together. And this artist combined Disney princesses, which most of them I know, with the state in the United States that they would match best with. I think we're looking at Belle, and she was linked to a southern state, Alabama, of course. And they all look great, I must say. My favorite, so this is, we're now looking at Jasmine in Florida, I think. No, Jersey, I see. My favorite is definitely Snow White. She looks absolutely great, and she's from Texas, y'all. Yeah, it's the results are just gorgeous. She's from California. I don't know which. That's Snow White in Texas, looking absolutely great. The quality of this image is just amazing. In Alaska, obviously, yeah, that's Mulan, somewhere in the mountains. Maybe that's Oregon. Yeah, and Ariel in Maine. I really love the output, and this is one of the if you still needed proof that it's the quality of the images generated with Midjourney just amazing. We're looking at Rapunzel. She's New York. I don't know. Cinderella is New York. I like the creativity of this. And then the final one, just to send you all gently into that good night, is a website called chatjams.ai. And the promise is the following. There's a nice looking cat on that page, but you don't even need it. Remember when we talked about Lo-Fi Girl?
Yeah.
Jams is an AI cat. And what you need to do, it starts as a language model. So you need to tell it what you would like to hear. So Jelle, who was here in the studio before we started broadcasting, he wanted to have something jam, spins, farming tunes. He just typed in as the input for the jam, farmers. And then this was translated into a prompt. The prompt is actually pretty good. Jams, spins, farming tunes, perfect playlist for harvest moons. Wait for crops to bloom. And then what it does, chatjams.ai, is to generate a Spotify playlist. So I'm not sure. We're going to have Italian food right now, right? So let's ask it to come up with something Italian, and see what that sounds like. Playlist Italian, just maybe something, pasta, something like that, and then see what it makes out of it. I don't know. Maybe it thinks of Italian food. Jams, the cat. So Jams is the name of the cat DJ, right? For Italian, listen, pause, and play. Pause. Oh my God. PAWS. We got a little 3 dots dancing, and that means it's thinking. Take a while. All right. Can you listen to? Do you have Spotify? So the first song is Conte Partiro by Andrea Bocelli. So it's actually what I noticed that we got all of the Italian cliche songs in here. Zucchero is in here. Eros Ramazzotti is in here.
Create a playlist
on one word based on. Well, it can be a whole prompt. So you might say eating spaghetti carbonara, and it'll come with a different playlist. So you can just feed this cool cat with. So eating spaghetti, pasta, carbonara. And then let's see if it still comes up with Andrea Bocelli and Zucchero. Our apologies, you'll just have to sit this one out. It just takes like 1 minute to generate it. So it's now creating, there's always like a very, some wordplay on cats and your input. So the playlist flows, tunes as smooth as carbonara, satisfy with purrs.
So there's now technology creating a playlist on Spotify that is specially...
That's just generated. Well, what I like about it is that it ignores the Spotify algorithm completely. It will create a playlist not based on the Spotify algorithm of what Spotify knows. What is the first one? Fly Me to the Moon. Oh, by Frank Sinatra. That's actually and Dean Martin. I like the vibe of this one. Tony Bennett. Louis Prima. Oh, I love this one. Yes. Ella Fitzgerald. And then it's there's the inevitable Andrea Bocelli in here.
A little bit jazzy Italian
mafia. Yes, you can already see, you can hear like the ting of the wine glasses, and then so that's exactly what we're going to do in the next 15 minutes. We'll see y'all, and I'm saying y'all because I'm thinking of the Disney princess in Alabama.
Yeah.
In 1 week, exactly 1 week, with more chaos and amazement.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.